And welcome back, everybody, to the Ocho here at Voice of College Football. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2024. And if you're new to the Ocho, this is the show where we talk Big Ten, all 18 teams. We have special guests every week, and then we bring on the Voice of College Football community panel. It's a great time. My name is John Diadamo, and I'm going to be your host for the next couple hours. You could follow me on Twitter at John Diadamo. Pretty self-explanatory there. I host this show as well as another show called Michigan Wolverines Live, where we talk about Michigan for an hour. But this show, we talk about all things Big Ten. So there you go. Quick reminder, please like, subscribe, share this with a friend. Send the link to everyone. Take this YouTube link, send it out to the universe. Discord, Facebook, your Uncle Ronnie, your whoever. I don't care. Just send it out there. The more that we can grow this show, the better. And of course, send a super chat to make sure that your comment or question is read on screen. And it looks like, yeah, we're going to be talking about at all 18 teams. Every week we focus on one for our special guests. So this week, we actually are going to be having Nebraska week here at the Ocho, and we have two guests to help us really take us through the last year of Nebraska football and kind of how things have evolved. Our first guest, you probably have seen every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Voice of College Football Nebraska Cornhuskers Live alongside Mark Rogers. We've got Justin Adams in the house. Hey, Justin.
How's it going, man?
It's going all right. Had better days, had worse days. Can't complain too much, but thanks for stopping by the Ocho.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. And you've come on our show a ton, so it's the least I can do. But you're pretty down bad if you already got the Nebraska guys on. So
we're gonna go through all 18, man, all 18. And then let's also bring on, you've seen him before on our shows, John Johnston from Corn Nation in the house. John, thanks for coming on the Ocho.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm ready to yell at people.
There you go. Well, Nebraska gave you plenty to yell at and also be happy about, I think. I think you got a bit of both, right?
No.
So obviously.
Go ahead.
First year of Matt Rule, program builder. We know he takes a few years. But hey, I saw signs of life for the first time in like 5 or 6 years in the Nebraska program. And that's a cause for celebration. But John, I could see you chomping at the bit, wanting to comment on this. So I'll let you have the first word.
Well, I don't think there was enough positive. We didn't get to a bowl game. We were at 5-3 at one point with some very winnable games in front of us, and we didn't win them. That's it. We had a lot of arguments about whether this was a successful first year, was it not a successful first year, and I think you could go both. You could argue both points and honestly be right. It didn't. The whole bowl thing. I want to hear. I haven't been to a bowl since 2016. I want that to go away forever now. And it didn't go away. And we had we had good chances to make it go away and we didn't take advantage of them. We got a game-saving turnover with like 30 seconds left against Iowa, and we still turned the ball over and lost. Who does that?
We should have known.
Who does that?
We should have known better. As he dropped back to pass. We should have known better. And then they had their longest run on the game. The immediate play after, they ran the ball to get into field goal range.
Yeah.
Oh man, I may have a little bit more of an I'll take a little bit more of an optimistic take here. So my overall view on the season is yes, there's a lot of positives, a lot of negatives. Matt Rule, one of the biggest issues was he missed on the biggest decision he had to make, which was the quarterback role. And really, it was just hamstrung from there. And then but if you look at the end of the Frost era and coming into the season, if you listed the issues this team had and then turned it over to this season, and then with everything that happened with all the injuries, and then still kind of listed the issues that they have now, I feel like that list has shortened. And I think that's just the one step we needed wins are, they'll come as time goes on, and just being in the moment and being that close, I think, is what made it hurt a lot more, because coming into seasons, people were barely pinning us to win a bowl game, and that was at full health with Jeff Sims expected to be, decent. And, we also lost Trey Palmer last year, who was half of our offense. So there's a lot of things between the two, but the fact that this team and this quarterback room was as bad as it was, and this team still won, 5 games, and the defense to me is the hardest unit to build. And the fact that the defense was able to be turned around very quickly by using the guys that we had and developing them and having them play a little more hard nose, and a defense that's a lot more confusing, a lot of moving parts, that was a big step in the right direction. So I feel like last year we were kind of like, okay, now what? Even though for us has been 5 years, we're just kind of like, now what? And finally, I feel like we have somewhat of a trajectory and a culture and an athletic department that's kind of unified now overall. So,
well, and kind of as we go, I'm actually going to flip the order of this a little, because I'm not going to lie to you. For about 7 days there, as I was studying film in prep for the Nebraska game, I was actually a little concerned about Heinrich Haarberg, and the reason is because of his ability to run the ball. He made some throws, and in the past, Michigan had struggled at times to defend against a dual threat quarterback. But now for 2024, now you've got the guy coming in, Dylan Raiola, and so I know how excited. The second that dropped, I remember when it was the Nebraska live show, and everybody was excited about that. What's kind of your reaction to them actually able to get Dylan Raiola? I'll start with Justin this time. Just reactions on that. I know that he had been recruited and kind of it had been a process, but to get him from Georgia, right?
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where when he committed to Georgia, he kind of fell for the pomp and circumstance because he did his visit out to the national championship game. I think it's very easy as a kid, a high school kid, to get caught up in that moment and just be like, oh, I want this, But it sounds like in interviews and stuff like that, his heart was always kind of with Nebraska. And I get that they talk about, he moved from place to place, but his dad had a lot to do with that in high school. And then secondly, if he's going to move on from Nebraska, because people say he's going to be here a year and leave, where else does it make sense for him to go? He switched from the best team in the country at that time to the place his dad played at. So it doesn't make sense for him to go anywhere else. That being said, you can't understate the importance of landing a 5-star QB, but I was most excited about the fact that coming off of this previous season, imagine trying to recruit skill players to transfer into this university after what we put on the field, last year with that QB play. I feel like to actually get some of the skill position players we got and to, be able to get some of these guys in the transfer portal that we have, we needed to make a big splash in the QB department, and, none bigger than this. And thank God they landed him, just because, it was going to be hard to land one of those big dog QBs in this transfer portal. So yeah, you can't help but just be excited about it. And it's just like it feels like a turning in the right direction, because it's something we've never had, a 5-star QB,
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. Well, I was going to say what the offense might look like, but really it'll be interesting to just see an offense.
Yeah, exactly. Something resembling
something that looks like, hey, look, they can score more than 10 points a game, and they're not Iowa. That's not an actual part of the program that's supposed to be like that. So I think that's the biggest key about this. I mean, the defense came along last year, and they were a very functional, very good defense. And that was in 1 year where they took guys and they turned them into, especially we all went into 2023 worried about the defensive line and getting run over. And the defensive line really became a strength. The defense became very, very good. And you kind of looked over and went, okay, what are you going to do with that mess? And I think that's the key, is they, like you mentioned, they brought in a number of portal players that they probably wouldn't have been able to bring in if Dylan Raiola wouldn't have joined up. And it is kind of exciting it's months away. It's way too far away. But, I mean, it's going to be, well, the spring game's going to come up. And just to see that we can actually, I don't know, throw passes to our own team. That would be something amazing to see, consistently, maybe, I don't know.
And
kind of crazy, but that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
And thrown forward past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
That was something we struggled mightily with.
Yeah.
And considering Satterfield wants to throw the deep ball, he does like to get big and heavy and set up a physical run game, but he does like to set up the deep ball. He's done that at Baylor. He had a very balanced offense between run and pass, but he uses the run game to kind of set that up. And Harburg's biggest issue his entire career in Nebraska is he has no deep ball accuracy. He can throw the ball, far, but he doesn't have the accuracy for it. And when you have a quarterback that's running 20 plus times a game, the wear and tear, it's going to get to them, and they're not going to be as ready to run. And what Harburg relied on was his physicality. And when you get banged up enough, you kind of lose that physicality and that instinctual play because you're a preservation mode at that point, so.
Do you see, you mentioned Harburg, and I'm trying to think of how the offense could look. Obviously, Raiola getting the opportunity to be a QB1 where, maybe in Georgia he might have to sit a year. I mean, especially with Carson Beck coming back. Here he gets to be QB1, but I could see Harburg being utilized, how like Taysom Hill is at the Saints, because he can't throw a deep ball, but you know what he can do? He can run, he can he can make a pass. It's just, maybe not the prettiest, maybe not the furthest, but if you need a trick play or you need something, I could see them utilizing him in that capacity.
I was thinking of Cole Kramer at Minnesota. Minnesota used their quarterbacks, I think, effectively. That's what I would like to see. They had that one guy, Tanner Morgan, main quarterback, and then they bring Cole Kramer in, and he'd run like, well, not really zone reads, but he'd run like, I don't know, zone plays and stuff like that. And every once in a while, he'd throw the ball and catch people off guard. I'd like to see package. You're going to ask next what we're most worried about. Do you want to just go ahead and put that up?
I'm going to go ahead and pull it up for you.
Okay. What I'm most concerned about is quarterback depth, because we have we have Dylan Raiola, we have Danny Kaelin, another true freshman. We have another true freshman from Succop, Nebraska. No, his name's Bode Succop. I can't remember where. He's a freshman walk-on Nebraska guy. We don't have very many quarterbacks. We have Harbaugh, and what are you going to do if one of them's banged up? What are you going to, that's a big concern. How quick is Dylan Raiola going to catch on to the offense? How quick is he going to adjust to playing Big Ten football? That's probably where the biggest concern is. And that's kind of, I guess that's the thing. Justin, what are you most worried about?
What was the question right before this? For my recollection,
it was what you were most excited about, and now we're on most concerned.
Oh, most concerned about. Yeah. So the biggest thing that I was thinking immediately, it was also QB depth. The thing about Harburg, he's for me, he's just a football player, similar to Taysom Hill. He's not a quarterback. He's just a guy who is very instinctual and likes to play the game. He's very athletic and can do a lot of different things, but he's not refined in any one thing. But what, John mentioned, the QB depth, it makes it very risky to throw them out there in packages. We don't want to be stuck with two true freshmen out there. So they may be a little more hesitant in that regard. But overall, I think the one of the biggest things that I think helps us in the issue that we have with Raiola kind of hitting his stride is that I think we benefit from this front-loaded, easy schedule. I think that gives him time to kind of get in there and kind of get some of these, I wouldn't say easy games, but, that last part of the season is tough. And so having like a Michigan on the road or an Ohio State on the road, early on in the season would have been a lot more difficult. So I do think there's somewhat of a silver lining there. But yeah, we saw all three quarterbacks got banged up at a certain point this year. So that's really scary in the back of our minds.
Yeah, we did. We don't start out with a conference game on the road this year.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
Yeah. He can kind of get in there and maybe polish up a little bit and get used to the speed.
Yeah. Just destroy all our dreams right out of the gate.
Well,
We can look forward.
yeah.
We can look forward to the back half of the schedule. Yay!
I mean, yeah, this schedule. Look, I'm sure you guys are wanting revenge against those Colorado
Oh, dude.
Buffaloes.
Oh, I'll be out. I'll be out there for that game. I'll be on Lincoln for that one. Trust
We'll
me.
be
But you're
standing.
right,
There
I
would
mean,
be people standing
it's-
along the interstate waiting for buses. I don't know.
Hey,
Come on.
So last time I was in Nebraska for the Michigan game, and so like my dad, there's this place called Rosie's downtown, and my dad started as a bass player in their band at 13 years old. So every time I'm down in Lincoln, I go up on stage and sing. And last time I got an FD on chant going in the club on Michigan weekend. So it's going to be much louder that weekend.
Yeah.
I bet, but like realistically, I mean, I could see out of this first half of the schedule. I mean, this could easily be at least 4 wins. I think, 3 or 4 wins.
God, all of them. We're gonna win all of them.
You could win all of them.
Write it down.
That'd be really great.
Win all of them.
Champs, baby.
We're kicking off's ass.
5
Indiana
times.
crushing. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a issue with Ohio State.
You might have a little issue with some of
Yes,
these.
Last time I feel like the bye week bit us in the ass because we came out not firing after the bye week. I think we can go. Let me scroll up a little bit. I can't remember. I think I had us at like 5-1 in the opening stretch. Is that 6 before the bye week?
So yeah, you have 6. You have 6 starting with UTEP. Trusty UTEP. Starting things off.
I don't know, man. That might be 6-0, but I'll just go 5-1 to be reasonable. We're definitely not losing to Illinois. Sonny, get out of the chat. Rutgers might be, maybe they'll make it tough. They're a very physical team.
Yeah, but it's in Lincoln.
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's one thing I was looking at. So I don't know, man. That kind of looks like 6-0, but I don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to put on the homer hat.
We don't start counting losses until the season gets here and game 1 goes down the drain.
Well, I see this as a very, very doable schedule for you guys.
I think when they had the whole, these teams are joining the Big Ten from the Pac-12 and they're all good, and I think they don't look that scary.
Yeah,
and this is me as a guy that with the team that sucked for years. I just I'm looking forward to these teams joining the conference.
I think we're gonna have a really good season. I peg us at like 8 wins. And that's, with the growing pains of Raiola and potential injuries and all that thrown in there. But to John's point, I am excited to see this Pac-12 move over because, the Pac-12 is starting to sound a lot like Scott Frost when he came over, when he said the Big Ten was going to have to adjust to his style, and it sure is
right.
And then we saw
the top, no way.
We saw the top of the Big Ten versus the top of the Pac-12 in the national championship game, and Washington got bullied. So we'll see who has to adjust. But I had Washington guy on our show, and he said he thinks the Big Ten is going to have to adjust a little more. I'm not buying it.
Northwestern will drag them into a rock fight, and then there's Iowa. God help them. They don't know what they're in for. And then, my favorite part of the whole thing is I get to say my favorite phrase in college football, which is you can't spell suck without USC. And I just get to say that all the time now.
Oh, we have a pretty strong USC contingent that might take issue with that. I don't know if any of them are watching, but
that's some fun in college football. You got to throw shots here and there. It's not like it's not like they're not throwing shots at us.
Oh, well, I mean, literally the chat for the last
we got a good chat.
20 minutes is Ohio State, Michigan basically fighting each other.
No, I always like the chat on these shows. That's what I told Sonny yesterday is our Michigan video, our Ohio State video got the most views, more views than the Michigan video by a long shot. And it was like all Michigan fans coming on to talk trash. So I was like, the best way to get Michigan views is to post Ohio State videos. Apparently, because they ain't watching their own stuff. So that'll do it. Just get them talking about that, and they'll go all day.
I think going back to Nebraska, another big concern I have is how is everybody going to fit together on this roster?
Yeah.
He brought in like 735 guys. We have like, I don't know, 2,000 people on our roster now, it seems like. And a lot of them are, some are vets, some are new guys, some are, how are they all going to fit together in one big, happy, moving in the same direction, team? That's probably the other thing.
I think
Offensive line depth in the past probably would have been a thing, but they brought in, there's so many people coming in so many different positions. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that gives me a little confidence in that regard is, the relationships that kind of Matt Rules builds with the players and stuff like that. I think it's really shown in the fact that Nebraska didn't lose a lot of people from, this past season in the portal. And the people we did lose weren't, extremely productive guys. Yeah. And we were able to land a few guys, but I think that this goes to show that kind of they think he has their best interests at heart, and probably everything that he promised, they have gotten, or they've enjoyed their experience. So I'm hoping that part of it will help these guys transition in, and they can just become, part of that, rotation, build those relationships with the coaches. Because one of the things, I forget who it was, one of the recent recruits that visited, I believe this elite weekend, I can't remember, but he was talking about and specifically the relationships that the coaches have with each other, not only with each other, but their relationships with the players. And so he said that stood out to him, and he's made some big visits, LSU, Notre Dame, et cetera. So
I think that's a good segue for kind of the big topic, right? The big question that I have on my mind, I think a lot of people have on their mind, Nebraska. I think it's good for the sport when Nebraska is elite. I think
so
it's
do
good
I.
for the sport.
So do I.
Like when we have a top tier Nebraska in the mix for the 12-team playoff. And Matt Rules have proven like he's done it at countless stops, and he's gotten teams to 11-1. And guess what? 11-1 is good enough to get into the 12-team playoff. So can it happen? Can Matt Rule pull this off in today's era of NIL and transfer portal and everything else that's going on? We'll start with Justin.
So here's what I've been impressed with thus far. Matt Rule, previously when he was in college, was successful with recruiting, under the radar guys, really recruited heavy in Texas. But one of the biggest things that, I've noticed in coming over to Nebraska is that with the transfer portal and NIL being the way it is now, and it wasn't anywhere remotely near that last year, it seems like he's been able to still integrate a lot of his recruiting practices and still figured out the transfer portal and NIL, pretty quickly. And that's not easy to do, especially with everything rapidly changing the way it is. And not only that, he's reintroduced the two biggest states that produce the most NFL talent as our biggest recruiting states, Texas and Georgia. And so, there are Texas and Florida and Georgia. Sorry. So I think Georgia was the second most NFL players. Texas had the most. And that's got to be a recruiting hotbed. When we're in the Big 12, Texas was a pipeline state, and we lost that. And I feel like that was a lot of our downward struggle there, was losing Texas. So he's really made it a point to make relationships in Texas, hire guys that have relationships with high schools in Texas. I think he's building the right foundation to make us better long term. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to start, seeing it progress year over year. Because, fool me once, that whole thing. So,
John, fool me once, fool me. You never get fooled again.
90s glory is a pretty high bar. It really is. And I would go back to 80s glory. That's when I was in college there. And yes, I am that old, you sons of bitches. But I think that college football in 2024 is going to see a massive change for everybody. And I think like Michigan and Ohio State are probably thinking, well, we're just going to go and not lose any games in the conference, and it's going to come down to us again. And I think that's just so far-fetched that it's unbelievable. Right now, the Big Ten and the SEC, I mean, Texas, Oklahoma coming into the SEC, I think the future of this is going to look a lot more like the NFL, where, an 8-4 team might be able to make the playoff just because it's going to be much more of a grind. The games are going to be much more competitive. I think what you've seen with Nil, maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's a point of discussion for one of your shows, is that Nil has leveled the playing field for really top talent, because people had just said, well, we could go buy that quarterback, or we could go buy that guy. and players are moving around a lot more. And I just think that to answer your immediate question, I don't know if it's 90s glory, but I think that Nebraska can be where I want them to be, is in the top 4 of the Big Ten. Because I think if you're in the top 4 of the Big Ten, you're going to make the playoff.
Yeah, one of the biggest things, and I saw somebody in the comment clarify, so it was Florida. I think Georgia and Texas had the most first-round picks or something like that. Oh, did my camera go away? Cool. Hold on, let me try to come back. Okay, there we are. The one of the biggest things in the 90s, I wasn't born until 1990, but one of the biggest things in the 90s that, made Nebraska good was they just had the best strength and conditioning program, the best walk-on program, and they kind of had a loophole a little bit in that walk-on program that they had. But they used it effectively and just, having that advantage over everybody. And now, a lot of people's, their facilities are all kind of top notch nowadays. And it's just keeping up with the Joneses at this point, year to year. But I think that was one of the benefits that it's not going to be there anymore. And I think as the transfer portal and stuff like this happens, it's going to diverse, the talent's going to spread out a little bit more. But to John's point, it's going to be a grind, and it's going to favor the deeper teams nowadays. And it's going to be much more difficult.
I mean, you watch the NFL deep into the season, and it's carnage. A lot of times we're seeing the top teams now in the Super Bowl. Probably not really, though. I thought Baltimore would slaughter everybody in their path, but it seems like the best teams are the ones that actually don't get beat up as badly.
Yeah,
you see star players just left and right dropping out, and your fantasy team is all blown to hell in the first 2 weeks, and you're weeping in the bathroom again with the towel in your mouth, and that kind of stuff going on. And I just think college football is going to go through a massive change, and we're going to put it this way. Every week at Corn Nation, I do an opening odds article. And what I do is I, do all the odds for the games. And I look at what are the best games this weekend. And there's been a lot of times where there really hasn't been that good of games. Well, that's going to change now because you're looking at, 4 really good teams joining the Big Ten and, the SEC, like I mentioned. And there's going to be not a weekend where we go, well, there's a bunch of crap on, there's not really any big games. They're all going to be big games, a lot
marquee matchup at noon, marquee matchup at 3:30 Eastern, marquee matchup at night, like literally that. And then of course your West Coast edition probably after. So you've got 3 to 4 matchups where now you're lucky to get one. And so, yeah, you're definitely right. John, I know you've got to leave us soon for another thing. So I wanted to give you a chance to give a final thought, and then also, where can everybody here at the Ocho find you on a regular basis?
Well, my final thought is that I'm looking forward to the 2024 football season. When you get old and crusty like I am, a lot of people are like, oh, it's changed. I hate it. College football is ruined. I think there's a good chance that college football might be better than ever. The games certainly look better than ever. The viewership certainly looks like it's going to go up. I get that there's this romanticism about college football where, though, they should do it for the love of the game, but that's just kind of silly given the talent they have, the work they put in. Honestly, the health costs that they might incur playing college football and entertaining all of us. So I think the future is really bright. I think Nebraska under Matt Rule looks really exciting. Where can people find me? They can find me on cornnation.com. I run the SB Nation Nebraska site, Corn Nation on YouTube. And then I have started another YouTube channel called Hardcore College Football History. I've got less than 20 videos out, but they're base videos. Like, how did college football actually start? Why was it so brutal? Nobody ever does college football really from a historical standpoint. And that's what I'm trying to do there. So I don't know. Is that enough? They can find me in my room. I never leave home anymore because the world's scary.
I'm the same way. Once you get into content mode, you don't leave your house much.
Yeah.
That's what I found out.
Well, John, thank you for coming by Voice of College Football again.
Yep.
I know you stopped by when you can, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So check him out on Core Nation, and until the next time.
Enjoy
All
talking
right.
to you, John.
You too. Take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you all.
Bye, John.
Bye.
Well, Justin, it is time to bring
Bring 'em in.
on our Voice of College Football community panel. So what I'm going to do is bring on. We have too many people in queue. So how we're going to do it is we're going to start with the Big Ten people. I think that's the fair way to do it, because otherwise it's like way too many people on the panel, and then we'll see how we go from there. And we'll start with bringing them on to give a reaction to the Nebraska discussion, and then we'll kind of go from there with the big news of the week.
I'll let them get their thoughts off.
Cool. We're going to start with one of our resident reasonable Buckeyes here at the Voice of College Football. We got Sean joining us for the Ocho. Hey, buddy.
Hey, good to see you, John. Justin, I think John actually turned me onto your channel. I caught his link to your guys' discussion, and I like your channel very much. I've browsed through a few videos, and always good conversations.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate the support. It goes a long way, man. It means a lot to us. So thank you.
Yep.
And thanks, John. Appreciate you.
Hey, I do what I can to get the word out about people. We also have Michigan Wolverine, Mike Ford in the house.
What's up?
Go Blue. How you holding up?
Oh, I can't complain. Just good to see the Nebraska guys here. In fact, I think there was a channel. I think it's called Corn Crazed. He seems familiar on that one.
Yeah, Connor Hayden. He has that channel, Corn Crazed. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that one before.
Yeah, he's cool. I met him out in Nebraska. So yeah, he's a good dude. Really good channel.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's good.
And we have one more Big Ten panelist here. We've got friend of the program, regular contributor, moderator, Erica Goldberg in the house, Iowa Hawkeye. Hey, Erica.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
Hanging in there.
We're hanging.
We're hanging in there. I heard about what's going on, Michigan land.
Yeah. You and you know you had to deal with hearing about your rival for half an hour there, but
actually I didn't. Hey. I only joined about 15 minutes ago because I was elsewhere, and that wasn't on purpose. I had an appointment, but anyway,
we were fine without you.
Is that the question or what I heard?
So we're gonna kind of give what we're gonna do once we bring everybody on. Obviously, every week we're gonna have a guest talk and we'll or multiple as we had today. Do a 20 to 30 minute on the team, right, that they're coming to rep, and then we bring the panel on. And before we talk about the other big breaking news stories and stories that have been a thorn in my side today, we'll wrap up with Nebraska. And get everyone's take on Nebraska for a second. So we'll just kind of go around the horn same way as I introduced everybody. So Sean, kind of initial take for you on what was just discussed, and kind of can Nebraska kind of hit that next echelon?
I mean, I think they're sneaking under the radar, all this Big Ten discussion. I've grouped Nebraska in with Wisconsin as evidence for how tough this Big Ten is going to get. It's easy to focus on the West Coast editions, but I mean, you've got two really, really, really good second-year coaches who have long proven track records there, and Nebraska has enormous resources, a tremendous fan base, so much commitment to it. I don't see Nebraska being irrelevant for very long anymore. I think that the era was up for Nebraska football.
Let's get Mike's take on Nebraska football. Where do you think it's headed?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing I said to Erica, because I think that this is, now that the divisions are gone, all these Big Ten West teams are going to get thrown in the deep end of the pool because now they're not playing each other. So we couldn't really get a grasp or proper gauge on how good they were. I mean, Northwestern went 8-5 last year. Are they a legitimate 8-5 team? In my opinion, no. But the thing is, they got to play, the Minnesotas and the Illinois and stuff like that. So now that the divisions are gone, we're finally going to get to see, how Nebraska and Northwestern and all the other West teams do. Raiola, he's probably the best quarterback I can think of in recent history for Nebraska. And I was on board saying when they got Jeff Sims, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I don't know what that was. I mean, his offensive line didn't help anything, but I mean, Raiola's got to, he's got to be, living up to expectations. I think, this could be an 8-4 team. The old line needs to kind of step up a little bit, protect Raiola properly. I like the way, Rule's doing this. I'm glad that, one thing that they kind of struggled with, in my opinion, was that whenever Osborne left, the Texas pipeline of recruits kind of dried up a little bit. And now with
we were talking about that. Yeah.
That can come back. And, if they can, tap into Texas, like they used to be able to, sky's the limit.
So fun fact too, the most recruits in this class are from the state of Texas, and the most offers in the 25 class are out to Texas. And Matt Rule has actually brought people onto his staff that have connections or have been high school coaches in Texas at a high level. So that way they can help recruit that state, and it's paid off so far. So he's really making a heavy push in Texas.
Yeah.
And dare I ask Erica?
No, I mean, I'm not.
This nonsense.
I feel that a lot of the West teams, kind of like what Mike said, and Iowa's in the same category. This is a show me year for so much of the Big Ten, and that includes Iowa, that includes Nebraska. In my mind, and I apologize if Roger Dodgers in the chat or Tim Prainley's in the chat, it's the same thing for USC because you're not going to succeed in the Big Ten without a defense. That's just how it is. And as far as the other West Coast schools coming in, UCLA is not a threat. I'm not worried about them. USC, like I said, it's show me. Let's see what they can do with this new defense they're building and with their offensive line. As far as Washington goes, well, their team was decimated by the transfer portal. And Oregon, yeah, they're a threat. So 1 out of 4, I feel they're a threat. But as far as Nebraska goes, I mean, we have to see how Raiola does. I understand the hype. I mean, we just got a 5-star ourselves with Caden Proctor. So I get the hype.
There you go. Yeah.
But it's, we have to see what they do and how productive he is. And, if he's going to stay at Nebraska, because I kind of agree. This is, players want to be on the field. And if they don't get on the field, they're leaving. And I'm sure that Raiola's not an exception to that rule, just like Caden Proctor wouldn't be. The only reason Caden Proctor even left Bama is because Nick Saban left. So that's how I feel about a lot of the Big Ten West is it's show me time. And
I kind of feel like Proctor might have hit the portal even if Saban stayed. I kind of have that feeling like he just wanted to get back.
He said, Proctor said that he already was thinking about it before Saban announced he was leaving, but Saban leaving was the, frosty on top that, firmed up, yes, I'm going to leave. So he was thinking about it, but Saban leaving really was like, okay, now I'm definitely going to the portal.
But
yeah, that's how I feel about Nebraska. In short, long story short, I feel the same about Nebraska that I do about Iowa and USC, which is show me what you can do. And also Wisconsin is included in that list too, because to me last year they were horrible. That was just a horrible Wisconsin team last year. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, and with
I'm putting off
really nobody who can start over him. So that's one thing to take into account. There's nobody on the roster that'll beat him out for that spot. So
well, that's good. And the other part of it is, I think Mike said in the chat before we all came on here, he needs to be good as advertised. So we're gonna have to see about that too.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he is or isn't. But that's the situation the Big Ten West teams are in. Period.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
There's one of our regular contributors on the After Dark show, Jordan Bowman, who's a Clemson fan, has a lot of direct experience with Marcus Satterfield. He was the OC at South Carolina before, and he's I've heard he's very, very down on Satterfield as an offensive coordinator. I think he believes like in order for, and I can't make it. I don't know enough about him to make any sort of judgment on that. But how do you feel about Satterfield as OC?
So looking at last year, if people are going to justify Matt Rule as a program builder and be patient with him, Satterfield has been with him everywhere he's gone. Why wouldn't they be the same way with Satterfield? Also, we saw improvements in a lot of areas. The offense had lost 8 of the 11 starters that started opening day by week 4, and our quarterback room was abysmal. And he still was able to kind of go out there. And the big thing that people don't remember is he lost Trey Palmer. So Casey Thompson threw for a little over 2,000 yards, and about 1,200 of those were to Trey Palmer. And Trey Palmer's in the NFL now. So he was a very much the key part of our offense. So the drop-off isn't as steep as people think. But that was a patchwork team that true freshmen played more than anybody because we were forced to play a bunch of true freshmen never played. We lost our top 2 receivers, our top 2 running backs, and we're literally down to a bunch of true freshmen. So they kind of got better and they got experience as the year went along. But I think Satterfield, you got to give him time just as you got to give Rule time. Rule trusts him. If we trust Rule, then we got to just stick with his plan, man. He has something that works, and we got to give him time.
Kirk Ferentz trusted Brian.
Well, yeah. But after a while, you got to let go.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield are blood related in any way, are they?
No.
That might throw a wrench into things. Minnesota Dave, thank you for your contribution. Erica, everybody in the West was horrible. Then Erica, of course,
much what I said.
Erica, of course, said including Minnesota as a little comeback. So,
well, it's true. Is it not true?
Minnesota won very good.
Minnesota 7 straight bowl wins. What are you telling me?
Yeah, they beat Bowling Green.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, interestingly enough, tickets were selling for that Motor City Bowl for $2.
$2
on StubHub. Yeah, you could have
$2.
It's not worth the paper it's printed on. But Minnesota had a hangover because Mo Ibrahim didn't get a 9th year of eligibility.
I thought you mean 15.
Neither did Tanner Morgan.
Tanner Morgan, another one who has been there forever.
This is the most airtime Minnesota's gotten in a long time.
I know, and part of it's because I'm putting off talking about Michigan, but we got to do it. But before we do, don't forget to hit the Amazon link when you're doing your shopping on Amazon, and also check out the merch store. We've got new merch in, whether it's dog bowls, whether it's you name it. We got socks. We got all kinds of things. One of the mods, if you don't mind popping that link in the chat here. But I love some of what Joey Foster has been putting in our merch store. We got shirts and shorts and flags and iPhone cases and Samsung cases and all kinds of things. We got stuff for kids. We got stuff for the whole family. And so check it out. Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football merch store. And we do also have a little bit of merch for a couple of Big Ten teams, Michigan, USC, and Iowa. So check it out.
That might get me that sports bro.
I think that would be perfect. I think that would be great for you. So
you got any in your size?
I don't know. I can fill it out.
Oh boy. So I'm gonna reserve most of my remarks on this for tomorrow. Michigan Wolverines live at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Michigan channel. However, Sharon Moore has officially become the Michigan head coach. We expected that. I predicted it 5-6 months ago on the Last Dance episode of the Wolverines Live. I also thought that Jesse Minter would go with him. But today was a very tough day for us Wolverine fans because Ben Herbert, who I think a lot of people have put, as one of the reasons why Michigan has the culture that it does and the strength and conditioning and the endurance that the players have, Ben Herbert has a lot to do with that. And, you know, he essentially was second in command in some ways. So when I talked to a couple of the players, they said in addition to Harbaugh, it was Herb and it was their position coach. They were the ones that held him accountable every day, you know, so that was kind of where it was. So, you know, I guess I'll start with Mike on this, obviously, as a representative of the Maize and Blue here, 20 days away from winning a national championship. Now we've got this, a little bit of aftermath. So what's your take on these moves here and kind of what you're seeing?
Well, I mean, Sharon Moore, I mean, I'm with you. I thought that was going to be the guy from the get. I thought the only other option would be Jedd Fisch, because I knew he was not going to, Arizona couldn't afford to keep him there. And then when he got hired at Washington, I was like, well, it's Sharon now, because there's really no other coach out there to have. That's really not really up to Michigan standards. You know, he had a, you know, great run there. I mean, he was the head coach. He had the big headset for the 3 hardest games Michigan had to play in the regular season. So he's had a mini trial by fire. You know, he knows the culture. He can recruit. You know, the recruiting is going to get a spike with Harbaugh gone and Sharon Moore in place. So the future is, you know, there's going to be some rocky times in 2024, but in the long run, I think we'll be okay. Minter, you know, I was hoping, but it was, you know, kind of a pipe dream. I expected him to leave for the NFL. I wasn't sure if he would join Harbaugh on the Chargers, but I had a hunch he was gone. I was hopeful, but Herbert was a blindside.
Yep.
Because I thought that, well, first of all, I imagine he might end up taking a little bit of pay cut going to the NFL. I don't know the finalities on that.
Well, he's definitely taking a pay cut going to LA. The cost of living is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Apparently
Harbaugh made a great offer. So, you know, which is interesting because normally in the NFL, you don't pay strength and conditioning coaches over $1 million a year. And apparently he's getting whatever the offer was. It was more than he's making now, which is over like $1 million plus. So it must have been more than that. And then Michigan couldn't match it. So yeah, it's a bit of a shit show there. But Justin, I know. So you obviously you also have a Big Ten show with Sonny, who has been hanging out in chat here a little bit. I've been on the show a couple of times. It's a great time, and I think last we were discussing on that show was the Sharon Moore news, or that Harbaugh was leaving, and that I was pretty darn sure it was going to be Sharon Moore. So obviously some developments since that show. So what's kind of your take on it all?
Yeah, I just personally believe that I think not getting Jedd Fisch was a good thing. You know, Jedd Fisch has never stayed, and he's got 14 different roles in 20 years. So as a longevity thing, I don't know how that would have went. You know, who knows? He would have probably been on the first ticket to the NFL if he did get that team turned around. Who knows? But I think short-term, Sharon Moore is going to be able to retain hopefully the majority of those recruits in comparison to somebody else who would have to tear it down and rebuild it. The thing is, we don't even know what college football is going to be like next year and beyond. So trying to do a complete tear down and rebuild in the, you know, modern college football world next year, that's going to be an arms race, especially in the Big Ten, to prove yourself. I think this was probably their best course of action, just to make sure that they're still somewhat in the thick of things next year. And, you know, they can kind of build from here as opposed to here. And then with Harbaugh going to the NFL, yeah, that was pretty much the writing on the wall was there. The Chargers were the betting favorites since the start, basically. You know, they were the most, you know, they had the most traction throughout the process. We basically had talked about Jesse Minter being, you know, a package, a deal with Harbaugh at that point. But yeah, Ben Herbert, I don't even think we talked about him potentially leaving at all. So
no, yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that one's a surprise. But overall, I think they made the best move for the university.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, everything Michigan has done since Harbaugh's firing makes sense to me. It remains to be seen whether these are the right moves long term. I mean, there's always a bit of a gamble when you just sort of promote someone into this big of a role who hasn't taken the kind of traditional path to it. It's worked out well in the past. Obviously, I think with Ohio State, there's we're 6 years into the Ryan Day, and there's still an elite program. Lincoln Riley took over seamlessly at Oklahoma. And of course, I mean, big example was David Shaw taking over at Stanford. It eventually unraveled, but they had like 6-7 really good seasons after promoting him. But then there are also a bunch of other examples where it kind of falls apart. So you just don't know. I mean, being a full-time head coach is very, very different from being the acting head coach on game day for a few things. Not to say Sharon wasn't impressive in those, but when you're in charge of a program and you assume all the actual duties that a head coach does, as far as like putting together a staff, building a training program, or running the practice, running the program from a whole level, it's a different experience. But
sorry.
I mean, like Michigan has a very good culture. And it made sense to try to keep that intact as much as they could. Even in the strength and conditioning program, Herbert's top assistant, I don't know his name off the top of my head, he's now assuming the role of head strength and conditioning coach at Michigan, right? Is that correct?
So they've named the assistant. Name escapes me.
Yeah, I saw the story. I don't remember it, but I mean, for everything Michigan has accomplished the past 3 years, it makes sense that they would want to keep as much of that intact, as much as possible. So I don't know. I mean,
Justin Tress. So Justin Tress came up with Ben Herbert, in his career up to this point. So yeah, Justin Tress they're following the pattern that we've seen, right? Promoting Sharon Moore, and now Justin Tress, and apparently Clinkscale is being rumored for defensive coordinator. So they seem to be doing a lot of like elevating existing people to the higher role.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I can just say like one thing about how impressive the Michigan strength and conditioning coach is. My firsthand experience. I knew Mozzie Smith in high school. I famously coached him for 5 days as a wrestler. Followed him all the way up. I knew him the entire way through high school. And I mean, the gains he gained in the Michigan program at that, from a mentality standpoint, from, he was kind of a softie in high school. He wasn't even really all that dominant. He was just a big lump of clay when he got to Michigan, and they molded him. They unearthed all his potential, and he became a first-round pick. So that's and I saw firsthand the efforts that Ben Herbert's made, and you've seen a lot of these guys that Michigan is going to have drafted in the top 100 picks next year. They're going to be like a lot of 3-stars, like Chris Jenkins, Zach Zenter. I mean, these guys were not highly coveted players coming in, and they'll probably have good long careers in the NFL. So, definitely a good idea to keep a guy who's learned everything from that guy on staff.
John, may I ask you a question based off of what he just said, kind of Sean, concerned there with Sharon Moore, him taking full responsibility and it being different. Do you think there was anything with Harbaugh there behind the scenes, just kind of, in a room by themselves, where he was kind of just guiding him, maybe getting him ready and set up for the role, assuming that he may go to the NFL? Do you think there was anything there to that?
I mean, personally, I have no idea. I think that my guess is that there were preparations months ago for both scenarios. At a program of this level, you can't not at least have, I understand publicly they're going to say one-track mind, we're off to Alabama, we're off to the national championship. That's what you have to do, right? But behind the scenes, do I think that there was a plan A if Harbaugh stays, plan B if Harbaugh goes? Yes, I think there was some element of, here's what would happen if. Yeah. Because you can't just like dump Sharon Moore in as as head coach without any preparations
Yeah.
whatsoever. So
I
I'm
was
sure
wondering-
there were preliminary discussions at least.
Yeah, because I was wondering if maybe, Harbaugh clued Sharon Moore in before everybody, maybe even the university, of course, that he was going to be out, and just kind of, in a room, somewhere in the stadium, maybe just pulled him in there and just was kind of like coaching him through getting ready, getting him prepped for how to do it, even more so with the fact that he had to step in and coach a few games, even more of a reason too. So, he still may be set up for success in that way more so than a lot of other coaches.
Erica, what's your take?
Well, I've just been sitting here listening to all the analysis. I don't have much to add. It seems like a lot of Michigan fans are upset, rightfully so, because they kind of were gutted by Harbaugh, and that's a shame. But, Sharon Moore is going to show what type of head coach he is very quickly because of everything that's happened now. He's going to have to hire a lot of new people, a lot of new, or promotions, like you said, possibly, I don't know. But the point is he's going to have to hire/mold a new staff. So that will be interesting to see. And I mean, it's already been said, everyone knew that he would be the head coach. That's no shocker. I'm not a Michigan person at all, and even I knew that. So same thing with Minter. I knew he was gone. That's also not a shocker. But yeah, so hopefully, Sharon will be able to do that successfully, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, also, I'm on the record for I wanted Harbaugh to go, and I've said this before for a long time. I think our recruiting jumps because no 18-year-old kid wants to come play for a coach that's flirting with the NFL every time there's a coach on the hot seat trending on Twitter. Because every time somebody talks about an NFL opening, Harbaugh's name just goes up in lights. He trends. He doesn't do anything to discourage all this. I mean, he's like the pretty girl at the prom. He looks at all the suitors, and he never says, no, I'm happy here at Michigan. So kids don't want to come play for that. They don't want 2 months from now their coach is off to whatever job. So I think with Moore, I think if the kids get some, if he gets some stability, if the kids know that he's going to be around a while, the recruits are going to come back because I'm tired of kind of languishing in the 10 to 17 area in national recruiting. I want us to
me too,
kind of crack that single digits like we used to.
I think never mind. Go ahead, John. I don't want to cut you off. I was going to say, I think we should press Erica a little harder for her answers. She's kind of getting out of here with the whole everybody's got to prove it argument on every topic we're on. And
well, I feel the same way about my team. To be really blunt, I feel the same way about Iowa too.
Let's hear the opinions outside of just the blanket.
Well, what is it you want to hear about?
You seem to have some thoughts on Michigan. Let's hear them.
Actually, I already shared my thoughts on Michigan, and I said I'm not a Michigan person. I don't know.
You just came out with a lot of arrogance, so I thought maybe you knew more. But
there's no arrogance in what I said at all.
I digress. John, go ahead.
There is some pettiness on the Plains after all. Don't let them fool you with their nice guy facade here.
I've heard Erica on the show before, so I gotta throw some jabs.
We'll right. I haven't said anything that's arrogant tonight at all, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Although we are getting to the Iowa offensive coordinator soon, and I'm very interested to hear all of the thoughts there.
I have plenty of thoughts, and they're not positive ones.
Okay. Well, I think to wrap up on this, tomorrow we'll have Michigan Wolverines live. We'll be discussing this with TJ's back for Ronin Sports Talk, so we'll kind of go on that front. But I think it seems like
joking.
a lot of.
I was joking, by the way. They were taking that way too serious.
We're picking on the girl, man.
But I'm having fun.
Hey, I mean, I've just been honest about my opinions. There's no arrogance one way or another. I'm saying my opinions.
Totally.
Everybody relax, bro. Y'all need to smoke some here.
Oh, snap. Okay,
we're over here.
I can get my own here in Illinois too.
Well, I kind of want to see what happens with Iowa when they don't have a third of their team out on IR.
Yeah, that's true too. But as far as the OC situation, I did not like the outcome of it at all. I didn't like how Kirk handled it at all. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. I think we could have done a lot better. we did have another option that was a lot better, and that didn't happen.
Yep. Yeah, that was, I'm not going to lie. I think Ben Herbert leaving was definitely the number one shock of the last 7 days. But hiring this guy, I think, was my number two, because this really was, this just made me scratch my head and go, huh? But then I thought about it a little bit longer, Erica, and then I was like, wait, Kirk is on his way. He's on his like last year. Does he really want to bring someone in who's going to have a lot of friction, or does he want to bring someone in that's going to run the Iowa offense, not ruffle any feathers, and work well with Kirk in his last year or two? Maybe that's the strategy there.
Well, what I'll say about that is, first of all, I don't think necessarily this is Kirk's last year. I've been on record saying it could be, but regardless of how many years we're talking about, it's not many. I mean, that much I'm certain of. And now that he's made this OC hire and a lot of the fan base is not happy about it, if it goes south, I think it's not going to be pretty for him at all. He's already kind of tested the goodwill of the fan base the last few years. And if the whole thing with Leicester goes south, I mean, they're going to start losing money. People stop buying some tickets. And there's some Hawkeye fans out there who can't take off the black and gold glasses who think I'm crazy. But, you know, people aren't made of money these days. And, you know, cost of living is rising. And what are you going to do? You want to eat, or you want to go to a Hawkeye game where the offense is crap? I mean, which one are you going to choose there? You want food on your table? You want to go to the Hawkeye game where they can't play offense? So, you know, things are going to start changing. We're not going to have the full crowd if this goes south like we usually do, in my opinion anyway. And, you know, I'm just not happy about the hire. That's really all I can say about it. We could have had Johns, who was the OC over at Duke. That would have been an upgrade. That, for me, was the home run hire. I was not on the Chris bandwagon. I never was. I was okay with it, but it wasn't my first choice to have him come. But when John's name started being floated for the position, I was excited. I actually, for the first time in 3 years, was excited to see what this Iowa offense would do. And, you know, Kirk actually, there was pictures on Twitter of Kirk with John's out around Iowa City. And when I saw that, I was like, well, that's it. He's going to be hired, because why would Kirk go in public in Iowa City, where he's widely known by everybody, with someone who he's going to end up not hiring? I was like, that's not going to happen. And then it did. So I think that Kirk is only willing to change offensively to a certain extent. I don't think it's going to be exactly the same with Leicester. I think there will be a few changes, because I've been watching some film of the teams he's been a part of. I think there will be some changes, but I don't think it's going to be anything humongous. But that being said, the personnel he worked with at Western Michigan, I like to think the Hawkeyes have better talent than that. I know it's hard for people to believe, especially given that a third of our offense was injured most of the season, including a quarterback and our best two tight ends. But yeah, ultimately, I'm just underwhelmed. I'm underwhelmed with the hire. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah, I've known about Tim Lester. I remember Tim Lester as a player at Western Michigan. He was a pretty good quarterback back late 90s, around 2000 era. And I watched his teams at Western. I'm 45 minutes from Western right now. I mean, those programs, I mean, he had pretty good passing offenses. Like those teams were pretty prolific throwing the ball. They weren't much like this Iowa offense at all, really. I mean, they have a few receivers like Sky Moore and Wayne Eskridge have been NFL players. I think Caleb Ellaby's had a run in the Canadian Football League and stuff. So it's a much more progressive approach to the game than Iowa has had in the past. I mean, so I don't. It'd be a shock to me if I saw them come in there and run the same 2 or 3 stretch zone plays, and then attempt a naked bootleg on 3rd and 8, like we've been. I mean, like I don't see that in the cards. I mean, there should be some substantial changes, at least schematically, philosophically.
Yeah, I think based on what I saw on the Western Michigan YouTube videos I've watched, I think the passing game will improve possibly. But he's still pretty run heavy from what I've seen, what little I've seen. I'm not very educated about Western Michigan, but the few clips that I did see, I noticed that. So that would be a bright spot if it works out and if Kirk lets him do it, because I think, honestly, I think this is still going to be mostly Kirk's offense. And I think part of the reason Johns may not have been hired ultimately is because I don't see him, based on what I saw of him, because I educated myself on him as soon as his name started getting floated too. I don't think he would be a yes man to Kirk. I just don't. He had the right attitude, like the Hawkeye like way of thinking and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Lester was not the best hire, and I just hope that he's not as bad as Brian, I guess.
And I'll say one more thing in defense of Tim Lester. He is known as a very good coach of quarterbacks. He played the position himself. He had a very good college career and played in NFL Europe. He was in camps for a while. And that is something I listen to Corey all the time talk about how poor the coaching of that position has been.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, if nothing else, he can improve the field, the IQ, and the talent development of the quarterbacks. That's a plus for Iowa.
Yeah, that's true. And Johns also, though, that was one of the plus of Johns. Johns was a quarterback himself, but he also was a wide receivers coach. And our wide receivers coach, I think everybody knows, but just in case people aren't aware, our wide receivers coach is no longer on the team either. They mutually parted ways a few weeks ago as well. And that was not a firing, that was mutual from what I heard. So we're without a wide receivers coach. And the reason I liked the idea of Johns is because he was a quarterback. But he can also coach wide receivers, and that's a big hole for us. And that's another reason why I think he would have been a home run hire.
Is there any truth to the? I'm trying to find the comment that somebody mentioned that the money wasn't quite there.
No, that's not true.
That's not true. Okay.
It wasn't about. I heard, it's one of those things where you don't know what you hear is true or not. I heard that Johns didn't even get an offer.
Wow. Which
I find that hard to believe. I don't think that's true, but I also don't think it was the money, because Iowa's not like Georgia with the money, or Nebraska, or or any of those blue bloods, but we're also not like little old Iowa with the money. We have Big Ten money. And we have a good, healthy collective as well. Although I know that doesn't have to do with coaches, but still, my point is we have more money than some people tend to think.
Parker got a bump in pay, didn't he?
Yeah, Parker did. He's making, I think, 1.9.
Yeah, and someone else got a bump.
Wallace, Seth Wallace, I believe, was the one. He also got a promotion. He's like what is it exactly? Assistant head coach or something like that.
Associate, maybe.
Coach, something like that.
Yeah.
So he got a pay bump, and he got also, I guess, a promotion. Because he was actually, so if I'm not mistaken, Wallace, they tried to poach him from us. I think Minnesota was the school. I could be mistaken about that, but I think Minnesota was trying to get him from us, and he said no to them. And part of the reason I guess we got him to stay is to pay him more and to give him a different title. So that's good. And then also Bama tried to poach Phil Parker from us for the third time. That also didn't work. And that is me being arrogant, for the record. So
may I ask, Erica, may I ask you a quick question? By the way, I do respect your opinion. I want to just clear the air there. But in your opinion, do you think Iowa's inability to really just step out of their comfort zone in any way is ever going to change, or do you think that's just going to be their demise going forward? Because that seems to be of course, the biggest issue. They like what they do, and they're just sticking to that. And I just think that comfort zone is just kind of what keeps them stuck. But
that's a good question. My opinion, first of all, not everything needs to be changed. The defense doesn't need to be changed. That much is clear. But as far as offense and in general, like, is change going to happen? Not with Kirk Ferentz there. That's one of the reasons why I don't want Iowa to fire him. I'm not saying that, but I just don't feel we're going to grow offensively, because he just has his hands all over the offense. And no matter who the OC is, that wasn't going to change. And I think that I don't have any sources on this or anything, but my speculation is that's the reason Johns didn't work out, because Kirk wasn't willing to give him enough free will. I don't know. I haven't spoken to anybody in the inside, but that's my guess. I don't think it was the money. I really don't. I think it was that Kirk would not, stop controlling or trying to control the offense. And like I said, that's not changing till he leaves. I just don't see that happening.
And for what it's worth, I don't have the ability to say anything too bad about Iowa. They got the bragging rights right now, so I'll digress.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, look, people called me crazy when I said 11-1, and they were basically, 10-2 with a really questionable call in the Minnesota game. Basically, so in my mind, I was pretty close.
Here's the thing, though. I love that they won 10 games. Don't get me wrong, but I'm really tired of those types of things being used as an excuse that Kirk has for not changing things up. I'm really frustrated with that. It's great to win 10 games. There's nothing wrong with it. I know that maybe I'm being too tough and on Kirk or whatever, or on the team, but the fact is, it wasn't the offense that won those games. Let's be honest here, okay?
I think we all know that one.
Special teams, and I think that I want to see Iowa be more of a complementary football team, and that's another thing Kirk says all the time that I don't understand, because we're not a complementary football team right now. We just aren't. So,
well, and my hope is that their last two games of the season, or of the year, I should say, between Michigan and Tennessee, where they got outscored, was it 61-0? I'm hoping that might kind of be the spur that kind of gets them going and to realize they might need to do some changing.
They lost 3 games this year and they lost 4 games this year and got shut out in 3 of them.
Well, first of all, I think, for me, Tennessee was the big one that was like, holy crap, like, what are we doing here? I mean, I already felt that way about the offense long before the Tennessee game was played, but that Tennessee game was embarrassing. As far as Michigan goes, we've talked about it here before. Obviously, we lost. Obviously, it stinks, but it's not, in Harbaugh's era, we had the lowest, we kept them to the lowest yards in Harbaugh's era, while he was head coach at Michigan. There's something to be said about that. That was a good Michigan offense.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was complete.
They're excellent defensively.
Huh?
They're excellent defensively. I mean, that's established. They're an excellent program.
Yep.
This year, I was almost more impressed with them. I was almost more impressed with them this year than I had been any other year in the past. One, because they got legitimately no support from the offense this year. The offense has been bad for quite a while, but it was at a different level this year. They had to be on the field for 11, 12 possessions a game, way more than an average defenses, and they just stood up time and again.
Yeah.
And then they were also, they replaced 2 top 20 first round picks this year.
Yeah.
They went on and actually improved. So, it says a lot about what they do on the defensive side there.
Yeah, that's never been the Iowa issue. Everybody knows it. And my thing, though, with the Michigan game is the score. And I know that everyone's going to be like, she's such a homer, blah, 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 which if anyone's heard me talk about Iowa, I don't see anyone can call me a homer, because I'm very difficult on Iowa, because I want them to be a good team and I want them to do things the right way. But what I was going to say is that game on both sides, both teams, that officiating on both sides for both teams was horrific. There were so many things that went uncalled. There were so many things that were called that shouldn't have been. It was just horrific officiating. And a lot of Michigan fans agree with me on that. It doesn't even, as far as that goes, whoever won doesn't matter. The officiating was just an embarrassment. And I guess it's just an issue across college football. That something needs to be done about that.
Oh yeah, you should have heard Bama fans, complaining about the refs in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I'm sure. Not shocking.
Because they're not spoiled at all.
There's always some of that, but I will say the Minnesota call was a little ridiculous.
Yeah. That was baffling to me. I still don't know what to make sense, how to make sense of what happened there.
I know people try to point out the rule book and make an exception there, but it has to be called consistently. You can't just like all of a sudden call it, and say all of a sudden the fans are just like everybody who hates Iowa is justifying it by it pointing at the rule book. There's a thing that's consistent, and that's the problem with officiating nowadays. There's no consistency.
Exactly right.
Rules and everything, targeting, etc. There's nothing. Oh man, Sonny's in here. But that's the biggest issue with it. It's just, and I'm talking inconsistent. I've never seen that called.
Yeah, and then there was also, I can't remember the teams, but I remember somebody saying on After Dark that week that there was another game where the same type of situation happened and the refs let it go.
Well, I kind of likened that to the old. Remember the Tuck? I mean, I'm sure John will know the old Tuck rule. Brady against the Raiders. Mm-hmm. I basically likened that to the Tuck rule. I mean, technically it is by the book, legit, but nobody ever calls it.
Right. Literally, nobody knew that was a rule until that exact moment.
Yeah, I'm sure Google. I'm sure the top Google search was Tuck rule after that.
Yeah, because let's be honest, it
was fair catch after the Cooper DeJean play. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, they didn't blow a whistle. That's part of the problem.
Yep.
No.
And
well, I mean, none of the Minnesota players thought that was a fair catch. None of them did. That was a completely earned.
Fleck didn't either. Did you see him after the play? He was like, pissed off that what happened. And then the refs reversed it and made it in the favor of Minnesota. And all of a sudden, Fleck wasn't mad anymore. He was pissed before it was reversed.
The funny thing is that if Cooper DeJean ran out of bounds with the 1, they'd have got away with it, because I think the fact that he scored means it could be eligible for review.
That's true. That's true.
The biggest
thing. So many. I mean, the point, in my opinion about it is, it was an annoying call, and they can't be selective about, when they call things. They should consistently call the same thing on any team that does it. But another part of it is that Iowa should not be, depending on those types of things happening. That Coop's going to fly in and save the day. They should be good enough at winning games that they shouldn't have to rely on such a call or on such a play. So there's so many angles you can come at that, but all around it's a disappointing thing. But, I'm not going to, I was mad, a day or two after the game and stuff like that and whatever, but it is what it is. What happened, and that's all. I mean, there's nothing to do about it.
Yep.
Well, folks, to be respectful, we actually have 3 people. We have enough people in the queue to do an entire another panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to give everyone here a thank you and a final thought, and where can people find you on the internet. We'll start with Justin. Obviously, you've been hanging with us since 8 Eastern, and we appreciate that. If you want to give us a final thought, and where can people find you on the internet? And thanks for coming on the Ocho, man.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you having me on, and I enjoyed the conversation with everybody. So you can find me over at Nebraska Football at the Voice of College Football right here on Mark Rogers channels, and then you can also find me and that guy that popped in here talking a little trash, Sonny Verma, on the Big Ten Show. So it's at Big Ten Show on X and YouTube. So you can find us over there. We're covering all the teams as well. A little bit different than here. We're doing the videos, but we've had John a couple times on our show. So, appreciate him coming on, and hopefully y'all check it out.
Yeah, you can just watch this. Just skip my parts and watch the other insight, because that's the good stuff. But no, we appreciate you.
Yeah, we'll learn how to deal with me eventually on here a few times on. So, but no, it was a lot of fun. So thanks for having me.
All right, Justin. Thanks for being here.
Yes,
all right. Next up, we've got Sean.
Hey guys, just one final thought. Couple notes on the Buckeyes. Big recruiting win. Landed Carter Lowe, a offensive tackle out of Toledo. So we have to hang our hats on now, recruiting wins. But he was a guy courted by most of the country. He's like a top 60, 70 overall player in the country. So good win in an offensive tackle where we haven't been as successful recruiting lately. So, and yeah, so that I think there's talk about we're currently short an assistant coach, so there's talks about doing some things, maybe adding Jason Taylor, the old guy, in to come in and coach defensive ends. Certainly want to make some room for Laurinaitis on the staff, I believe, and yeah, they've obviously keeping an eye towards the April when the portal opens up again, probably looking to fill like one or two more offensive linemen and maybe a tight end and maybe a defensive tackle. Are there any good defensive tackles in Ann Arbor or tight ends in Ann Arbor, John?
Yeah.
That might be interested in hitting the portal?
No.
Soon?
Well,
no, you
none
can't
are going
have
there.
Colston. You can't have Colston. Okay. Jeez.
Okay, I'll take Mason Graham instead.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see.
Okay. But that's it. Yeah, pretty dead part of the year right now outside of the coaching news. So, yeah, lots of time to wait here and just chew on this over the off season. Enjoy. You guys can find me if you want at Gun Lake Casino at 20 Monroe this week at a. I'll be there to see Stavros Halkias and watch him bellyache over the Ravens. Watch a bunch of him. Watch a Ravens fan just cry with a bunch of Lions fans over the result of these last weekend's game. So. Was pulling for the Lions. The Ravens, no, absolutely not. So, all right, take care, guys.
All right, bye, Sean.
Bye.
All right, next up, final thought for Mike Ford.
Well, I just now they got the O tackle. I'd like to congratulate Ohio State for getting extending their January national championship. You guys got
Right.
6 months of bragging for that. Like I said, I just I'm kind of in the dumps about hearing about Herbert leaving, but hopefully we'll be doing okay. I kind of expected Minter to go, so it's a new day. Turn the page. It's time to see what Michigan 2024 can do, and plus we still have another portal left, so I'm hoping that maybe some teams will say hey, maybe that national championship team, might be something to go for. So hopefully we can pull some pieces, maybe get a wide receiver. Maybe we can get an O lineman ourselves.
A wide receiver?
Yes.
For us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go figure. I mean, it'd be nice to actually have one. I mean, I like Samaj Morgan. Is he a legit wide receiver one? I'm not going to go there yet. I think he can be a compliment, but I think he's more Robin than Batman.
Okay. Yeah. Carmelo English is another one I think could emerge. It's just there's all this talent, kind of in that the freshman to sophomore group, and who's going to break out and get those starting slots, and who's going to be depth.
Well, I mean, I want to know, who's going to be able to step up, because I mean, I was high on Darius Clemens for a long time, and the guy never saw the field. I'm like, I know he's a legit talent. Just what's the problem? So
you can't win them all, Mike.
No, we definitely can't. But we won the big one.
I mean, we did this past season 15-0. So let's we did win them all. Yeah, but thank you, Mike. It's always great seeing you on the Ocho, and hope to see you tomorrow night for Wolverines Live.
I should be here. Go Blue.
Later. All right, go blue. And finally, last but certainly not least, we've got Erica for final thought. And where can people find you?
Well, I'll start with where people can find me. You can find me on Twitter at Eriquita0115. Talk a lot about Hawkeyes, football, women's basketball, politics sometimes, and make fun of stuff. So that's kind of fun. Otherwise, you can find me here usually on the panel, sometimes on After Dark. Hopefully we don't see any more of those gifts on the After Dark. But anyway, that's another story. And then my actual final thought is I hope we get a quarterback from the next portal window because, man, slim pickings for Iowa because Cade's not going to be able to even practice until August. And Deacon Hill ain't it. And Marco probably won't get to be quarterback one ultimately, which I would like to see that, but it's probably not going to happen. So we need to get a quality quarterback from the portal. Hopefully, maybe Lester can work some magic and make that happen for us. But, proof will be in the pudding. And, yeah, I'm a little bit down right now about that decision that Kirk made. But as I said multiple times and some people didn't seem to like, we got to see it on the field. So, and that's the truth for everybody pretty much in the league right now, at least all the West. And I think that's about all I have. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Erica, always good to have you. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. See you next time. Have a good evening. Go Hawks.
There you go. All right. So briefly, we have if you thought first panel was something, well, we're about to have second panel. So we've got a couple of folks that are regulars, and I feel bad, but like you can't get to everybody, and we don't want to have 10 million people on the panel. So here comes second panel. We've got friend of the program and host of the Jacksonian, Jackson Johnson, in the house.
How you doing, Johnny? How's it going, man?
It's going good. We've got your buddy Will ND here. We got Will.
What's going on, everyone? Thanks for having me on, John.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, friend of the program, contributor, semi-regular panelist on the Ocho, we've got Minnesota Dave.
How's it going, everybody? How's it going, John? How's it going, Jackson? Action Jackson?
Oh, it's going pretty good, Dave. How's it going with you, man?
And Will. Is Will right?
Yep.
All right.
There should be an intro music for panel members. What would everybody's intro song be? Think about that. That's a good one. There
John's
we go.
will be a mixture of Italian and Irish.
Hey, we have a song on the Michigan show. So hey, we got an artist who signed off on it. So
sweet.
Yeah, all good there. Yeah, but okay. So we had kind of two core discussions that I want to obviously get your takes on as well. And obviously this being big news with Sharon Moore becoming the head coach of Michigan. That was obviously a development that we had expected, but it officially happened the other day. Apparently they got their waiver. It's supposed to be a 7-day wait. So we would have been waiting till either this Wednesday or Thursday for the announcement had it been, but they must have gotten the waiver because he was announced. Jesse Minner expected to go with Harbaugh. We called that one, but Ben Herbert today was also announced, and that was kind of the shock to everybody's system, so to speak. The one that all of us didn't see coming. So Jackson, when you heard the news, this kind of drip, Sharon Moore first, and then Minner, and now obviously Herbert, who's kind of a big part of the culture and strength and conditioning and everything. I mean, what do you see from the Michigan program here, and what's your take?
I think that 2024 there may be a few bumps on the road, but my question is, who are the defensive coordinator candidates for Michigan? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh yes, Yes. Hey, Buckeyes. I am the only Michigan person on the panel, so you can't say I stacked it this time. So it's going to be I think it'll be Clinkscale or a combo of Clinkscale and Elston. That seems to be the most likely scenario at this point. So internal hires getting raised up.
Okay, so who are the coordinators for your Michigan Wolverines now? Is that been announced?
So the speculation, it's not confirmed, but the speculation is that Kirk Campbell will be elevated from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator and play caller. If we recall, he was play caller in game 1 of this past year against the East Carolina Pirates. When Jim Harbaugh had to take a couple of games off.
So it wasn't OC when they were playing Maryland, which was actually a game that actually was a challenging game for them. It was the only challenging game for them, I think, when Harbaugh was gone.
It was Sharon Moore from game 3 on. Sharon Moore was play caller. So yeah, no, Kirk Campbell. I expect him to be OC. I expect him to sling it more.
John,
and I think that's definitely interesting. And then for defensive coordinator, if they go Clinkscale, it just will continue the trend of internal promotions here.
All right.
Like I think that the overall sentiment is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Michigan just won a national championship, so like the idea is keeping the players or keeping the coaches that have created that culture.
All right.
The one thing that worries me about that is that what Clemson did for a while, and it worked for a while until it didn't work. But I think Michigan using the transfer portal will definitely help them out of it because Clemson doesn't do that. Michigan does. But that's just one observation I had. You definitely don't think Sharon's going to be calling the plays as the head coach, though?
No. I think he had a taste of having to juggle all 3 jobs: head coach, offensive coordinator, and offensive line coach, and he does not want to do that again. So in the opening press conference, he said probably not. He has an idea of who it will be.
But I just think that losing Hubert, that's his name, was Herbert.
Yeah, Ben Herbert.
I feel like losing him is probably worse than Harbaugh. I think. I mean, because that's the guy that the players see him every day, even during the offseason.
Yep.
Like people don't comprehend how important being the trainer is. So that's something that Sharon Moore needs to get right quick. Sure. That's like as important as a coordinator, if not more important.
One thing I want to highlight here, Mike Hart wants a better position. Well, Mike Hart probably isn't going to get a better position, so most likely he's either staying where he is or he may go and hang out with Kalen DeBoer at Alabama.
Wow.
Both are possible.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think about that, Jackson?
Sounds pretty cool to me if that happens.
I'm sure it does.
That's what happened with Mike Elston. Like he wanted to become the coordinator when Marcus Freeman came in, and he was like given like an audition in the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma State, and the defense kind of faded in that game, and we lost. So he ended up going to Michigan. Looks like he's gonna try again to be a defensive coordinator. So I mean, I like Mike Elston, great guy. I hope it works out for sure.
Minnesota Dave.
Yeah.
So I guess, what's kind of your take, having listened to the last couple of days of Michigan news and obviously Minnesota's
I knew that
their own
Michigan
stuff
was
going on, but
there really isn't that much going on. Since the last time I talked to you guys, the transfer portal went okay for us, and recruiting was pretty good. but I mean, there hasn't really been much to really talk about. I mean, the only good Minnesota news right now is Mauer was a first ballot Hall of Famer, so that was surprising. That's the only thing that we get for Minnesota sports news right now. That's interesting. So if you want to talk baseball,
hey, batter up.
Joe Mauer was the truth. I'll give you that. Joe Mauer is one of the best catchers I've seen, especially fielding.
Oh yeah. It is. He was so good. Never thought he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer because of the numbers, but you have to take in that he's coming in right around the steroid era, and all the players that played around his time were a part of sort of like the late end of the steroid era. And a lot of those players, you're never going to see Sammy Sosa be in the Hall of Fame. At least until all the or McGuire or Bonds or any one of those guys be in the Hall of Fame. So that's the reason why I think right now he's in the Hall of Fame. That's the reason why a lot of the older players that were long time gone make the Hall of Fame. Like, it took for a long time for a Michigan person. It looked for a long time for Trammell to get in. I don't think Trammell had the numbers. So, but anyways, to give me my idea of what's going on with Michigan, I just thought that they were just basically going to do what they have been doing. I thought they hired Harbaugh. They won a national championship with it. Let's just keep as much as the staff as we possibly can. And, they did a very good job at that. Harbaugh also, like we guys said before, Harbaugh has also been known to hire great guys that can follow up after him. He did it at Stanford when Shaw became the coach because Harbaugh left at Stanford, and Shaw did a pretty dang good job. But unfortunately, he's in a private school where when you're up, and when you're down, you're going to go really down really fast.
Absolutely. Will, obviously you Michigan being one of your key rivals, even though we unfortunately haven't played in a few years. You've had your own coaching moves, but seeing Michigan kind of change head coach, defensive coordinator in the works, and obviously now strength and conditioning. I mean, where do you think things are going here?
I mean, it's all about you gotta just nail these hires if you're Sharon Moore.
Yeah.
And you gotta be able to do what Harbaugh did Monday through Friday. That's the most important thing. If you can get that down, I think Michigan will be good. But I think they gotta get their recruiting up a bit. Because I think they're not gonna have 6 years, 5th and 6th year guys be able to come back like they this year. So the talent that will start to matter a bit more after all these COVID years go away. So the recruiting's got to go up a bit. If you can just get the coaches to be at Michigan had a phenomenal coaching staff. So if they can keep that coaching staff going, the Wolverines definitely can be a playoff team. But it'll be interesting to see if they can go down the hires.
Yeah, when you're obviously coming off a 15-0 season, national championship season, I don't think it's completely unreasonable that there is a possibility of 10-2 and a 12 and sneaking into the 12-team playoff. Is it going to be difficult? Yeah, absolutely. Can it be done? Yes. The schedule isn't like you've got probably a loss to either Texas, Oregon, or Ohio State. And then maybe you sneak one, you get one that you shouldn't lose and you lose it. You get to 10-2, 9-3. 10-2 can get you in, I think, in the 12-team playoff. So it is definitely possible that Michigan will make the playoff again. So I think things have to go right. A couple of plays have to go Michigan's way. But I don't think it's impossible with the people with the coaching staff that is coming back and the players that are coming back. Will Johnson, Colston Loveland, these are very good players. Donovan Edwards, and Alex Orji can sling the rock. I know everybody's only seen him run, and they haven't really seen much passing film. But he can sling the rock.
I'm curious to see it, man. It'll be interesting to see how good he is at passing.
Yeah, we've got a couple of people in chat agreeing 10-2.
Yeah, 10-2 is at least, I would feel, will be bubble. It at least puts you on the bubble.
Yeah. Moose is definitely in a rough place after the Herbert news. I can see because now he's saying 8-4 or 9-3, and look, that's possible. That would be basically we lose every game we that like every tough game. Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, and probably another against USC or something. That would be tough. Because that's basically every good game we would lose. But it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. So the other key, yeah.
Well, I mean, I definitely think you can. The Ohio State game, I feel like is winnable for sure. So even if you drop 2 out of 3 of those Texas, USC, Oregon games, I feel like since like none of these guys on Ohio State, maybe that's like a couple 6-year guys. Like since none of these guys have beaten Michigan, I think it could be a mental thing. So I still think there's a chance Michigan does it again, but we'll see.
Got it. Brian, please. Okay, we've done a second panel. We're enough. So this is not a call-in show. We do panels. We do have call-in shows though, and they're usually 2 to 3 times a week. And Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, will do them, including Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's the Big Ten live show with Mark Rogers, and you can call him at 888-99-RILEY and give your take on the phone about college football. So go ahead and call him on Friday or another show, but yeah, we're wrapping up here. So the last topic, and then we'll do final thoughts and encourage people to head over to USC. But we obviously did have an OC hire for Iowa finally after not 1, not 2, but 3 months of searching. And Kirk finally gets it done and hires Tim Lester. So Jackson, this hire doesn't smell right to me.
No,
I don't know. Something about it's just. It seemed like they had a better guy in Johns, and they're hiring this guy as a comfort hire, as a cheaper hire. I don't know, but
I hope for Iowa's sake he's better than Brian Ferentz, but I'm not too sure. It's not looking so good for them.
Well, a trained retarded monkey is better than Brian Ferentz.
You're not wrong.
But yeah, I don't hope the best for Iowa. I never really do. But hopefully it's the right hire for them. You said he was from Western Michigan, and offensively, Western Michigan wasn't that impressive, even for a MAC school.
I remember when he coached at Western Michigan.
Oh yeah, he was the head coach of Western probably after Fleck, right?
Yeah, he was right after Fleck. It'll be a nice friendly meeting after we beat him in September. Coach Fleck and him.
And he did play in some really reputable XFL and Arena Football League teams. And then he did play for such teams as the Chicago Enforcers. Yep. So he has an interesting coaching trajectory. He was a senior analyst for the Green Bay Packers, which I think is interesting. under LaFleur, and
right.
so he learned from LaFleur, and now he's
LaFleur,
taking over as offensive coordinator.
LaFleur, is that the Central Michigan guy? Was that the Because I remember LaFleur. There used to be
Dan
a
LaFleur was from Central Michigan. I remember they played in the Motor City Bowl quite a lot.
Yeah, because they were the champs. Because that was the championship bowl for Mid-American Conference for like a while. Yeah, you win a championship, and now you get to play another game in Detroit. Yeah, I think they actually changed that, and they actually now are they go down south for their big bowl games. Somewhere where the Sun Belt Conference is at. I think that's who they play against. The champion of the Sun Belt will play the champion of the MAC if they didn't make the college football playoffs, or the old way of basically doing it, which was be the highest ranked mid-major team to play in a better bowl game.
There is some speculation in the chat. Maybe he calls Kirk daddy. That is interesting.
Dad,
I think that's very, very possible. That's why. I mean, look, I think Kirk didn't want somebody who was going to come in and just be the head coach of the offense, and do things the way he wants. I think there's a little bit of, it's the Iowa offense type of still, like Dabo says, it's the Clemson offense. I think there's a little bit of that. And so somebody who's going to play ball, maybe he thought Johns wouldn't, or there's a lot of speculation as to why Johns either didn't get an offer or whatever the case may be. I quite frankly don't understand it, because I think he was a better choice by far.
He can't be any worse than Brian, though. He really can't. We can really only go up from here.
Yeah. I mean, I would have taken Tommy Reese over over Brian any day of the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I don't know if I can highlight some of these comments. This is going down the dark. Going down the.
Because I can care so much less about Iowa football. For Erica's sake, I hope he's the right hire. For her sake.
Yeah.
Other than that, for the rest of the Iowa fans, they can, screw them. I just can't think about anyone else that could be like if he's that. If I was about to say Hayden Fry, God dang it. If Ferentz knows what's best, he should just let this guy be the offensive coordinator. Let him do all the play calls. Don't get too involved with it. Just let him, coach the offense, basically. He's just after what happened with his son, he should just let the offensive coach the team and just let it go.
Let it be.
Yeah. What a concept!
Simple words of wisdom.
Letting the offensive coordinator coach the offense.
Wow.
This is.
I mean, I'm not the world.
Kirk.
Like, I'm not the world's biggest fan of Brian Ferentz, but I'm really hoping that father-son relationship between Kirk and Brian is going all right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Kirk had any say in it. Kirk was apparently pushing back against the AD.
Yeah.
So I think they still have that relationship.
And I want my son to coach another mediocre, terrible offense for us.
Yeah.
Get 10 wins from our defense.
Like, things that change relationships forever are when you have like relatives or friends working for you, or you loan them money in any way. Those things change relationships forever.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
I think Beth Getz was kind of like, we could win. We could like be a playoff team if we just had. We're not talking like Ohio State offense. We're not talking like Washington last year offense. We're talking like Penn State with Sean Clifford. That's it.
Yeah.
Just Penn State with Sean Clifford, and that defense goes to the playoff. I believe that.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, hopefully they can make that happen. We do have a question about Connor Stallions. Does he get a ring? So the answer to this, I've been wondering about this a lot, and I think the jury's still out. I believe that they're gonna find a back channel potentially to get him a ring. I can't prove this. I don't know this. That is my speculation. American hero. And obviously, cult hero, and will never have to buy a beer in Ann Arbor. And so because of that, I think they may try to find a way to get him a ring, but we don't know, and I don't think we ever will. I don't think that will ever get reported, but it is very possible that he gets a ring.
Yeah,
this is a giant.
I mean, I'm sure he'll show it off on Twitter if he does.
Yeah, and also he's doing cameos now. He's doing cameos.
Oh my goodness!
So I think for $75 a pop, you can have Connor Stallions, announce your draft pit, your draft board, and
that wouldn't be
like
bad
that.
if we could pay if before every Boys of College football video, you could get him in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be something. Maybe we'll have to hit him up and see if he wants to come on and chit chat.
Yeah. All donations go to Michigan's IL.
Right. The vacuum cleaner fund. There you go. Let's party Connor. There you go. I mean, I think he could wear it, and he's become a cult hero. Obviously, look, I think we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out from the NCAA in a year what their findings are and what their punishment is. Maybe less than a year. I hope we can because I don't want to have to deal with this another 2 or 3 years. Can we just NCAA just tell us what the punishment is, whatever it's going to be. But my theory is it's going to be a fine, and maybe a couple of minor suspensions, maybe something for Harbaugh that he won't even have because he's in the NFL. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be as severe as some people want it to be. Because I think some people want it to be 3 years and the natty gets vacated. In reality, I think it's going to be a fine, a couple of suspensions, and a couple of scholarships. I hate to tell you. But who knows?
It'll be interesting.
Anyway,
Tony thinks they're going to vacate wins. It'll be interesting.
I know he does.
I like to see what I like to know what the chat's saying. That's at Ohio State. If you have any Ohio State fans, are saying 5 years or something like that, or the most you've heard is 3.
Well, before that, the only evidence we have before that is Connor Stallion saying he was able to watch TV film and interpret things from TV, which that's not illegal. So we only have evidence that goes back to 21.
All right.
So the most it could be is 3, hypothetically would be 3 years. And I don't think it's going to be 3 years. I don't think it's going to be I honestly don't think wins are getting vacated. I hate to tell you. Unless it is found definitively that they broke the bylaw, which I think there was a loophole, and they found the loophole, and suspensions have been obviously Michigan got in the Big Ten levied 3 games, so we'll see kind of how it goes from here. But anyway, folks, so we're at at 10 now Eastern. So we're gonna do final thought and where can people find you. I said this will be a mini panel, but we do appreciate everybody coming on and being part of it. So we're gonna start with Will ND. We'll go this way. So Will, final thought and where can people find you on the internet?
Me first?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, you first.
So you can find me over
You're
on
good.
my YouTube channel, Will ND, Marcus_Era on Twitter, Klowski414 on Instagram, and yeah, just excited. I'm excited for the Senior Bowl. You know, like with the Pro Bowl being what it is now, I look forward more to the Senior Bowl, and I'm excited to see some of our guys, some of the Irish players go. I know Javante John Baptiste, who transferred from Ohio State, actually. I mean, they're loaded on it, and so he came over and did well. I know. Here, I'll bring it up. Who else is going? I know Cam Hart for sure is going. Maris Louisville, JD Bertrand. There's one more. I can't think. It might be Sam. Sam might be going too. But yeah, I'm excited for that.
Nice. And Jackson has very helpfully put all of your stuff right here. And I've just posted the Twitter again. So give Will a follow, a sub, et cetera, on the different platforms.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, Will. See you next time. Minnesota Dave, you're up next. Final thought for you.
I really don't have much of a final thought. I'm just, I was more amazed that Harbaugh left. I thought if he did leave, he would have left, when he would have taken the Vikings job 2 years back.
Yeah.
But he didn't, and I thought,
he's still Bear through and through.
Yeah. Yeah, well, basically you can find me at home or at the University of Minnesota working. I don't do much of my life except for watch football, eat, drink, jerk off a little bit and go to bed.
Well, there you go. So there's your regimen there. For Minnesota Dave. Well, thanks for
You're
being
welcome,
here,
guys.
on the Ocho,
Okay.
and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Oh man. This Jackson, I feel like have I just escaped the loony bin or something? I mean, this has just been something. No, we do appreciate everybody who's given time to be on the panel, obviously. But Jackson, final thought for you, and where can people find you?
Well, we'll say though, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Michigan. Although I am going to have to change my mini helmet things for a little bit. I don't know when that's going to be for the Big Ten, but I may have to rearrange something. I just don't know who's going to be leading the Big Ten at the moment, but it's late January, not June, so no worries there.
We will have plenty of time to do our way too early previews of the season, and where I'll release another set of predictions where some of them were perfect, some of them were way off. I thought Northwestern was going to go 10-2 or 2-10, and they went 8-5. Obviously, did not expect that.
I had them going worse than that. I had them going 1-11.
That's right. You did have them going, and like that was reasonable given the circumstances, right? Like that's why on Big Ten show with Justin, who was on earlier, I put their coach really pretty high, David Braun. I put him like 5th, I think, in best Big Ten coaches, because that coaching job is 1 in a million, in my opinion.
I will say though, I'm looking forward to seeing the Matt Rule era a little more at Nebraska. I think he's going to do some magic like he did at Temple and Baylor. I mean, he's going to do fantastic over at Nebraska. I mean, The second year is going to be better than his first year, but that third year is where we're going to see the big jump in Lincoln. So, I mean, I still can't get over how Nebraska USC is going to be a Big Ten conference game, but I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be fun. But you can find me on YouTube at Jackson Johnson 979 and on Twits at Jackson09960335 and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543908. And on YouTube, I am 215 subs away from getting the magic number 500.
Hey,
there we go.
You all heard that. You know what to do. Help him out. So let's get into the numbers. We appreciate it. Jackson, we will see you next time, and we appreciate you always helping out and being here, and thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for having me on tonight, John. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jackson. All right. With that said, two entire panels plus we did 30 minutes of guests with Nebraska. So I think this is a good place to stop. But before we do, we have some words. So first things first, make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already. When you're doing your shopping on Amazon, as many of us do from time to time, why not also help Mark Rogers get a couple of bucks? So go use the Amazon link in every description section of every video at the Voice of College Football. And if you're going to shop anyway on Amazon, you might as well do it with the Voice of College Football link. You know why? Because then that supports the network. We can continue bringing on quality guests like Justin and John Johnson from Corn Nation, and Sonny, who was on last week from the Illini cast. And we'll be working on getting you some more guests, because our goal is to get all 18 teams taken care of and talked about. So next week, we'll see. Who do you want to see as the next team? I'm thinking a big brand. I'm thinking a big power. Who do you want to see? Let us know. Let us know also in the Discord chat who you want. I'm going to put a poll out there, and the answer in the Discord chat is probably the team I'm going to go with. So if you are on the Discord chat, you can get there one of two ways: Patreon member for $5, or you could become a YouTube member at only $2.99. And sometimes Moose and others will just gift people subscriptions, and then you don't have to pay anything. As long as you're engaged, you might get a subscription. And we appreciate people who do that. So be a Patreon member, be a YouTube member, and we appreciate that. We also have a merch store with a bunch of tremendous products for the whole family. And our buddy Joey Foster puts that together. Does a fantastic job. You've got everything from gift cards to T-shirts to shorts, Voice College Football flags, shoes, sports bras, Sherpa jackets, even shirts for the kids. We got multiple types of coffee mugs. We love a good coffee mug. Polo shirts. That's right, folks. We have Voice of College Football socks. Oh, yeah. Jigsaw puzzles, backpacks, and my favorite, the Voice of College Football Pet Bowl. And in fact, we have two sizes, 18-ounce and 32-ounce. For those furry friends who just need a little extra in their bowl, you got a 32-ounce Voice of College Football Pet Bowl that you can put your stuff in. So that's very exciting. Okay. Let's see here. Ticket Smarter. Yes, get your tickets at ticketsmarter.com. BIG for $10 off and BIG 20 for $20 off. Ticket Smarter with ticketsmarter.com. And Aura. So Aura is Aura. This will be my last one. Aura is one. Has everyone here? I'm going to ask you. Has everyone here done their 2-week free trial of Aura? If you haven't, please do so. Why? It really helps Mark out. That's all I'm allowed to say on it. But read between the lines. It really helps Mark out, and it can help you keep control of your digital footprint online. When I tried when I tried Aura, I was really surprised with the amount of material that it gives you from a perspective of looking at really all of the information that you put out on the internet in the various places it can be. And it gives you some good data and insights and ways to limit what you put out there. So go to aura.com/MarkRogers, help us out, and get a free trial. Okay. We've got some discussion on BYU 1984 and our buddy Chris Foote. BYU 1984 is the 2024 national champion. The 2025, they are just the national champion of all time. That's how good they were. BYU 1984, man. Okay. Steve Dace, yes, our buddy Steve has the Michigan podcast, which, of course, Mark Rogers, voice of college football, is on quite often for the 10-minute war. Always a great discussion with those two. And sometimes he even, Steve Dace will even come on to our network and grace our network with his presence. And so you can enjoy that from time to time. Coming up next on the Voice of College Football Network, we have Trojan Conquest Live. That's right, folks. Trojan Conquest Live at the USC Football, Voice of College Football. So you've got, of course, Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football in the house. You've got Tim Prengley, a new writer at Trojans Wire, and, of course, Matt Zemek from Trojans Wire, always has great insights on USC Trojans. And so here is the link. There it is. So everybody can check out Trojan Conquest Live. Go over there and give them a head start by hitting the like button. If nothing else, if you have to bounce, at the very least, hit the like button over there. But what I would love is if anybody could go over and just let them know that John sent you for Trojan Conquest Live. And yeah, 10-minute war is what got me here. Imagine that. 3 years ago or whatever, I officially came over here and started calling in. But yeah, Mark's appearances on Michigan podcast, I think, brought over a lot of Michigan fans, and now Michigan is his largest fan base, and he's an Ohio State fan. But hey, we love coming over and giving the support. So anybody here who is a Michigan fan, I want to see you all tomorrow night. All of you on the Michigan channel. 8 p.m. Eastern, Michigan Wolverines Live. We are bringing back, by popular demand, TJ from Ronin Sports Talk, who crushed it last week. I think we can all agree he crushed it last week. And we had some of the best numbers we have seen for Michigan Live in a little while. So guess what? We're bringing him back, and we're going to go through the defense way too early depth chart, and, of course, talk through the news from Sharon Moore getting hired to the Chargers moves, and, of course, Ben Herbert. So there's lots to cover tomorrow night. Join us on Michigan Wolverines Live. And then, like I said, Trojan Conquest Live coming up at 11 p.m. Eastern. There you go, Ralph. Say it exactly like that. There you go. They would understand, I think. Yes, Scott. We actually, if you rewind to last week, Sonny was on our show, and Illinois was actually team number 1 out of 18. Today we had Nebraska. Next week we're going to have somebody else, and we're going to go through every team in the Big Ten. All 18. That's the goal. All right, y'all. I think that about does it. So head on over to Trojan Conquest Live, the USC channel. And thanks to everybody who stopped by, everybody who hit the like button, everybody who participated in any way in the show. And until next time, go blue. And we'll see you tomorrow night for Michigan Wolverines Live.